ربنا أعلاك قدرا يا إمام الأنبياء أنت في الوجدان حي أنت للعينين ضي أنت عند الحوض ري أنت هاد وصف.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Know Your Charity here on Hilaal TV. It's a show that goes ahead and showcases many of the good work the NGOs are doing across South Africa. Now, of course, one NGO that is very famous within South Africa is none other than Ashraful Aid, and they're having their live pledge line here on Hilaal TV. And I'd like to welcome a very familiar face to Hilaal TV. It's none other than Maulana Suhail Wadi. Maulana, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and jazakallah so much for joining us.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Maulana, the last time we spoke last year, there were certain plans that Ashraful Aid was looking to, go ahead and develop some projects that Ashraful Aid was looking to develop. How has it progressed so far from that last year's Ramadan to this year's Ramadan?
So alhamdulillah, Ashraful Aid, in terms of its plans, alhamdulillah, has been really successful, alhamdulillah. There's been great growth for the organization. Its impact of helping people has really expanded over the last year. Some of the targets that we had set in terms of assisting people, alhamdulillah, it's, Ashraful Aid, we were just doing the statistics yesterday. In South Africa alone, close to 169 towns are now supported by Ashraful Aid through our Zakah program, close to 31,000 beneficiaries. So alhamdulillah, it has really developed, and the impact that's happening on very grassroots levels, alhamdulillah, we can only thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for choosing us, and for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's assistance, for granting us the ability to make an impact in the lives of so many people, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, talk to us about the impact of those beneficiaries through your Zakah program, because it's not every day we see, people really talking about it, but through Ashraful Aid, how proud does it make you feel that you are able to make an impact in these communities?
So, alhamdulillah, when we say 31,000 beneficiaries, that's the singular.
Yes.
It's not the families that are there. So if you have to expand in terms of the families, you would say it would be close to 120,000 people that are benefiting from Ashraful Aid's Zakah program. And it's on various levels, so from the very base of food security, water security, then looking at the development in terms of skills development, entrepreneurial development, and really helping people, that really require from, those that are really that require assistance, people that are in deep rural townships where many organizations aren't able to reach them. Alhamdulillah, Ashraful Aid's logistics, because through its logistics capabilities, alhamdulillah, we've reached rural people in KZN, Mpumalanga, Limpopo, and this is only through the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Maulana, I want to talk about the impact Ashraful Aid has made on these communities, many of them non-Muslim communities. And I spoke to many other NGOs that had pledges here on Hilaal TV, and they said that if there's any, if there's any form of da'wah, it can be done through this. I mean, is that something that you see with Ashraful Aid also?
Most definitely. For us, assisting communities, obviously we have our Zakah program,
yes.
But Ashraful Aid is not only confined to we have the broad communities, so alhamdulillah, it really makes an impact, on the ground. People see the akhlaq of Muslims, how Muslims are assisting, and really it makes a major difference, for people. Also, one of our efforts is disaster management. So you can only picture that, someone comes home, 6 o'clock to work and sees their whole home is burned down. And, you don't know where you're going to get your next meal. You don't know where you're going to go. You're homeless. You're stranded. You don't know where your family is going to sleep. And, alhamdulillah, as a Muslim-based organization, you help people at that most critical point in time. That impact is probably, for me, probably the greatest dawah you're going to give.
Maulana, 1995, Ashraful Aid started, what we now nearly 30 years, if I'm not mistaken. Talk to us about, when it first started. I mean, your late father, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, grant him Jannatul Firdaus, inshallah. I mean, laid the foundations for it. I mean, talk to us about, that first time when you saw him laying the foundations and how, Ashraful Aid has sprung to this organization that has become right now.
So, since when my father, Maroon Maulana Luqman Wadi, started Ashraful Aid, obviously, he started in a very community-based.
Yes,
there was no real, at that point in time, to think the global scale that Ashraful Aid is now reaching, close to 30 countries around the world, with offices now in Canada, in New Zealand, Zambia, Malawi, and quite a few more offices that will be opening up and rolling out in the next year or so. I don't think he envisaged that. But, I think it was the ikhlas, the sincerity of helping people, of helping humanity. And obviously, when you start off something, you don't have any resources. You're always starting from, but alhamdulillah, through the izzah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given, alhamdulillah, I know Ashraful Aid started to grow. And alhamdulillah, Maroon Maulana Luqman Wadi, did remarkable work, amongst, at that time to work in the indigenous communities. Like amongst the very few of people at that point in time, So alhamdulillah, lots of inroads have been made, like in the townships, Alexandra townships, Tembisa, those, many of the townships that were not serviced. And alhamdulillah, from there it grew, also helping people in rural Mozambique when the floods happened, and hundreds of thousands of people had become homeless. And alhamdulillah, Maulana Luqman Wadi had taken almost a leadership position for South African NGOs in assisting the people of Mozambique. And up till today, we still get feedback from the people of Mozambique. It's like almost more than 20 years ago. But, the people still remember, alhamdulillah.
And that international reach, I mean, you're speaking now, you've got offices in Canada and so many places around the world. So that just shows that how the seed has become not just a flower, but a tree and many other trees. Because, starting in a small community in Johannesburg, it's now really had such a huge impact across the world.
Yeah, alhamdulillah, that is only from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As long as we do things with ikhlas, we do things transparently, we're able to show the work that we do, it has a meaningful impact on there. And I think, for us, it's the results speak for itself, the work speaks for itself. And alhamdulillah, we can only thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that. And it's important that just today, our head office, which is in Marlborough, where we started from, the area doesn't have water. And alhamdulillah, today our vehicle has been going out, giving water. At our center, people come and collect water. But what about the elderly? What about those that don't have transport? So alhamdulillah, still servicing our local communities, but also servicing communities around the world, alhamdulillah.
Well, before we go to the break, the ills in South Africa cannot be solved by government alone. The work that NGOs do, for example, you've mentioned, supplying water in the very same area where Ashraful Aid started, Marlborough, and so many areas across South Africa. I mean, how important is it that NGOs like Ashraful Aid play such a vital role in providing, the basic human necessities?
It's exceptionally important. We support hospitals, alhamdulillah, with halal food. Sometimes our drivers, alhamdulillah, we work with many volunteer groups, many sister groups, Alhamdulillah, they provide the food. We do the deliveries. So sometimes, we drive from one end of Johannesburg to the other just to drop a few meals off to service our Muslim patients that are in hospital. And, from a feasibility, people say, but it doesn't make sense. But the reality is, if that is that person's last meal and is getting halal food, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
How sad it is, or it will be, that the person's last meal is going to eat haram. So for us to even deliver that one meal of halal, and drive 30, 40 kilometers, for us, alhamdulillah, I think, in Allah, we have hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy.
Ameen Tuma. I mean, after the break, we're going to be continuing the conversation with Maulana Suhail Wadi. We're going to be looking ahead to the pledge, but most importantly, the work that Ashraful Aid is doing in the city of Gaza, which I think everybody knows is going through the current genocide right there. Do stay tuned to Know Your Charity.
أنت عند الحوض ري أنت هاد وصفي أنت عند الحوض ري أنت هاد وصفي.
Welcome back to Know Your Charity. I'm in conversation with Maulana Suhail Wadi from Ashraful Aid, looking ahead to their live pledge line that is happening here on Hilaal TV. Maulana, let's talk about Ashraful Aid's contribution towards Gaza. I mean, everybody sees what is happening right now, but just the NGO's contribution and continuous contribution towards delivering aid and so much more to the people of that area.
So, alhamdulillah, Ashraful Aid has been working in Gaza for many years. So even before October 7th, when the worst atrocities that we have seen in recent history has happened. And alhamdulillah, Ashraful Aid has been providing aid directly into Gaza for many, many years. Different programs, different, whether it's food, whether it's education. And what has happened, and what we've seen in from the 7th of October, seeing almost 2 million people being displaced, internally displaced, not having basic human rights, not having basic food, not having basic meals to eat, shelter, and we've seen the worst. So people in Gaza at this current time is really, really, my words can't express.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Can't express the realities that is happening in Gaza. It has been in the media. But from a humanitarian, it's a humanitarian crisis. And alhamdulillah, Ashraful Aid, with many organizations, has been working in Gaza, directly, providing aid from the 7th of October. So we've been providing aid from within Gaza. That was for the initial month or so. And then obviously, stocks ran out, as atrocities increased, and obviously you then had to start looking at aid being sent from out of Palestine, Gaza, into Gaza. Now, alhamdulillah, Ashraful Aid has also been providing. We've sent through several trucks, alhamdulillah, of aid. Alhamdulillah, myself, I've been personally to Egypt to oversee the packing of the trucks. Alhamdulillah, just last week again, another convoy of trucks will be heading to Gaza. Alhamdulillah, our first convoy had reached Gaza. It has been distributed, and I'm saying this in a sense that I'm making it sound easy, but it's exceptionally difficult. And so there's been lots of information, lots of disinformation in that as well. So, alhamdulillah, aid is going into Gaza. Yes, it has been heavily restricted. It has been really restricted. For instance, as the trucks go, first you need a lot of permissions for the trucks to go in. The goods have to be purchased and packed in a certain way. It goes to the Rafah border. It then goes to another check to the other side. If they're happy with it, it will then come back to the Rafah border. It then goes and gets distributed. You need permissions, on multiple fronts, and so it has been heavily constrained. So what would take a normal day to send, goods from, say, for example, if we're sending from South Africa to Mozambique, it'll take a couple of days. This can take up to 6 weeks. So once you pack your truck, it can take up to 3 weeks for that truck to reach. So the humanitarian crisis that is there, for example, if they need 1,000 trucks, maybe like 50 trucks will be let through, 100 trucks will be let through. So not the amount of actual aid that people require. But alhamdulillah, the aid has been going through, and although it's not as much or as fast as it actually needs to be.
Maulana, let's look ahead to the pledge line that is happening on Hilaal TV. Let's start from an international perspective, and then we'll come to local. What can the viewers contribute to?
The people of Gaza need your help. They really, really suffering. They need our help at this point in time, whatever we can give. Alhamdulillah, as I said, the need is not only is going to last for how long Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows, but in the near term, a lot of help is going to be required, especially just the basics: food, water, blankets, clothing. The basic necessities are required. Alhamdulillah, Ashraful Aid, as I mentioned, has sent several trucks. We're busy with our second convoy of trucks that is going in, and like that, Alhamdulillah, we plan to send almost every month. We'll be sending aid into Gaza, inshallah.
And then from a local perspective, Maulana, what can the viewers that are going to be participating in the live pledge line donate towards?
Locally, alhamdulillah, we also have a food security crisis. We're still coming across people in the rural areas, in the townships, kids that are coming to school, coming to madrasa hungry. And we're still finding that, people just need the basic food, So we have to look at South Africa as a whole. We can't only look at those that have. For example, if you look at Centre, but right next to Centre there's Alexandra,
yes, yeah.
where there's extreme poverty and lots of informal settlements that have come up. And people just need basic food, and that's where Ashraful Aid, alhamdulillah, has been providing aid across. We also have to look at long-term projects. So, for example, alhamdulillah, Ashraful Aid has also started skills development projects. We have a skills center, a computer center, alhamdulillah. So we have to also look at, one is from a very base level, but also looking at empowering people. Alhamdulillah, what has been that's very unique in South Africa is that we have now introduced interest-free microfinance for small businesses. So if you have been running a business for about 6 months to a year, alhamdulillah, you can apply at Ashraful Aid. And inshallah, alhamdulillah, we've been piloting this for a year, and alhamdulillah, many businesses that don't have access to capital, don't have access to market, that's only just making it, day to day, they're making, that profit is just lasting them for the day or so. But alhamdulillah, providing them with interest-free loans, alhamdulillah, is really making a difference in growing communities and growing individuals in a sustainable way.
Maulana, Ashraful Aid is 29 years old this year, alhamdulillah. Where do you see Ashraful Aid in the next, 3 decades?
Alhamdulillah, Ashraful Aid, we see Ashraful Aid increasing our presence in South Africa, increasing our global presence. There are still many communities in Africa, many communities in the Middle East that require lots and lots of assistance. From basic water, just the statistics alone tell us that 2 billion people don't have access to clean drinking water. So the need is great. The need is out there in communities, working on the ground. It paints a very different picture, it paints reality. And the reality for many people is that they don't have the basics. So Ashraful Aid, alhamdulillah, working with communities, working with government and other NGOs, alhamdulillah, we see ourselves being entrenched in those communities, uplifting those communities so they can become self-sufficient. So holding the hand from the very bottom, and inshallah, and we make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes them independent, grants them risk, grants them the ability to stand on their own two feet. Our teams have just come back from Afghanistan. Our teams have just come back from Yemen as well in the last few weeks. And, the amount of orphans that are there. To raise an orphan, it's close to almost a 15-year process.
Yes.
A 15-year process to raise an orphan. Before that child becomes 18, 19, 20, and they can stand on their own two feet. So like that, there's so many orphans around the world, so many people that we have to support, so many people that we need to assist, and we need to do it in a sustainable way. And we make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants us the energy, grants us the ikhlas, and grants us the ability and the resources, inshallah, to make a difference in the lives of thousands of people around the world, inshallah.
Mulana, Jazakallah so much for joining us here on Know Your Charity. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make your pledge a successful one, inshallah. Ameen.
Ameen. Jazakallah khairan. Really appreciate it.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. That's Maulana Sohail Wadi. Don't forget their live pledge line that is happening on Hilaal TV. From myself, Faraz Patel, and the rest of the team in Johannesburg, do stay tuned to Hilaal TV for more Ramadan content.
فجرا جئت بعد العسر يسرا ربنا أعلاك قدرا يا إمام الأنبياء أنت في الوجدان حي